I was impressed because Thomas hardly ever made word jokes like that.
Purple potatoes?
I wondered what Christopher's parents would say about their choice for him.
There's going to be instances when he's going to be around people that use sign language. There's going to be instances that he's going to need the communication with the oral. So we thought at the time that would be the best way. So whatever situation he was put in, he would be able to handle it.
We go to sign language class on Tuesday evenings, and after working, sometimes I really don't want to go. That's the last place I want to be. But you know, I make myself go for Christopher because I know that I have to be able to talk to him. And I keep thinking in the back of my mind, I'm really not going to need to know these signs because one day he's going to wake up and he's going to have his hearing and he's just going to start talking. He's going to have all these words saved up from 4 years and he's going to just rattle off a whole bunch of sentences. But I really know that's not true, but I guess I hope for that.
Lori and I took a beginning sign language class to see what it was like. It wasn't easy. We finished the course, but didn't register for the second session.
Thomas.
At home, Thomas was losing his temper a lot. We both wanted desperately to communicate with him.
I love you. I love you.
I thought we should work harder on sign language. Lori wanted to stick with speech. We have a child who's different from us. And we've got to, totally reevaluate our relationship to him and consider other relationships to the world that don't include hearing.
Okay.
And
you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of, okay, it's like having a child not born with legs, but with fins. And all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, we've got to go live in water. This child doesn't belong here on land. This child needs to go someplace. Is that what you're saying? I mean, because to me, that's as dramatic a change. What we have to do is go find him a deaf home, put him in a deaf community. We don't live in a deaf community, Robbie. We live in a hearing one. That's our family. We are Tommy's family. He came to us.
Yeah, but we can come to him.
Well, I'm not saying we can't, but I think that we need to determine when. He needs to be in a position to be able to say, this is what I want. Thank you. Okay.
Thomas. Thomas. Mommy.
What?
Mommy.
What?
He's a guy to bus. He could talk.
That's what Tommy wants for Christmas? Tommy wants a dinosaur? Right? A dinosaur? Yes?
Dinosaur.
A dinosaur. And what else do you want? A truck?
Truck.
And one more thing, a crane?
Yes.
Well, you tell Daddy, Thomas. You tell Daddy what you want. You say, I want...
What?
A truck.
Truck.
A dinosaur.
Mommy, please, Mommy.
You have to be realistic. I don't want him to live in a world where he's going to need an interpreter all the time. I want to be able to give him that freedom to be able to travel and do what he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it, without that restriction.
If he lives the first 7 years of his life unable to express himself, what kind of freedom is that? What are you giving him?
That's maybe, in Thomas's case, the price of his freedom. I'm not happy with that, Robbie.
Tommy, it's okay.
No, Mommy, sweetie. Daddy. Mommy, sweetie.
Sweetie pie, I don't know what you're saying.
I want God. Mommy, say
sorry?
I'm sad. Hey, you wanna watch? He's gonna eat that little dinosaur. He ate it. And how old are you? 4. I'm 4 too. See, you're not older than me. I'm 4.5. I'm 4.5 too. It's not yours. No. Give him it. Give it.
It was hard not to compare Thomas to other children his age. The world seemed so full of language. Did Thomas know how old he was? Or what a year is? Or what tomorrow means? We knew he was happy with us, but we didn't want him to grow up alone. I wanted to do more research, and so I visited the Central Institute for the Deaf in St. Louis, one of the oldest oral schools for the deaf in the country.
The colors were hot.
Children at CID are instructed entirely in spoken and written English. Sign language is not used.
I like peanut butter and bananas
I love peanut butter and banana.
on my sandwich.
I'm a hammer.
On your what? Listen, on your hamburger.
I'm a hamburger.
Oh, I think you are very silly.
Parents need to know the consequences of the choices, because if you want a child to learn to talk, you must start that very, very young, under age 5, and you must educate that child in a system that focuses just on talking.
I am glad that I had the opportunity to come to CID and to learn how to talk. Now I can communicate with anyone.
I met Scott Campbell on the day he was practicing his graduation speech.
I cut the class.
I wanted him to learn how to talk. I wanted him to be able to communicate with the hearing world. I wanted him to be able to go into McDonald's when he was 6, 7 years old and order his own food. And he's been doing that. And have people understand him, and for him to understand them.
Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Hey, that was good. Look, I want to talk, come here, I want to talk to you about a couple parts. On the part where you say, cut the grass, okay, it's cut.
Cut the grass.
Not crass, grass.
Grass.
G-g-g-g.
Grass.
Good, cut the grass.
Cut the grass.
Perfect, say that again. The deaf children in this school feel very good about themselves. They walk with a great sense of pride. And their pride is not in being deaf. Their pride is in being able to do so much in spite of the fact that they are deaf.
Thomas doesn't know he's deaf right now.
No.
He doesn't. I mean, I think maybe he might know he can't hear very well, but he doesn't know I'm a deaf kid and these kids are hearing and I'm deaf. When did you first know that you
Well,
were
does
deaf?
he have hearing?
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Does he have?
Yeah, it does help him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes he asks for them.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think he thinks of himself as a deaf person.
I really.
Do you think of yourself as a deaf person?
Well, sometimes. Well, at the beginning, when I was a little boy, I wasn't sure what I'm doing. I'm deaf, and I do not understand. And I do not understand what I'm doing. I thought I'm with hearing creep or deaf creep. I was so confused, and sometimes that makes me mad that I could not communicate with the hearing friend, because the hearing friend had more fun than deaf, because deaf could not communicate.
I think that being born deaf does not in and of itself make you a member of a different culture unless you so choose to be a member of that culture. I understand that there is another language, American Sign Language, and that if you choose to learn American Sign Language and to only communicate in American Sign Language, you are part of that deaf culture. However, if you choose to learn spoken English, then you can be part of the American culture. And I think that should be the choice of the families and the children.
For a different point of view, I visited the Learning Center near Boston. Here, American Sign Language is the primary language of instruction. Most other schools that use sign use signed English, which rearranges the signs of ASL into English word order. The method is supposed to help deaf children learn English. But some people think that deaf children can master English more easily if they become fluent in a visual language first.
We've got everything in the world to teach deaf children except the one language that they understand naturally and fluently and that is totally given to them as a natural language, namely, in our country, American Sign Language.
Furthermore, many studies have shown that deaf children of deaf parents, most of whom grow up with ASL, typically do better in school than other deaf children. The conclusions from the research vary, but in 1984, the Learning Center began to hire deaf educators and involve the local deaf community.
And so there were a lot of questions in terms of what is the role of deaf people in language and culture within this school. And many deaf children of deaf parents had advanced English in spite of their education. How did that happen, and how could we apply that to all deaf children who did not have deaf parents, not only that minority group?
The educational system has put an unconscionable burden on parents like yourself. You're supposed to act as the language model for your child, but you can't. With all the goodwill in the world, no matter what you're ready to commit, you cannot be a language model for your child. So it's an absolute necessity, if that child's to have one full natural language, that he or she be where there are deaf adults and deaf kids who have deaf parents and other deaf kids so that the child can learn that language.
Parents at the Learning Center told me that the deaf adults at the school were role models who sent their children an important message.
You know, you're going to grow up and you're going to be deaf, and you might be like me or you might be like this person, but you can go to college, you can get married, you can have kids, you can be satisfied with your life. That's enough. I mean, I think that's really enough. I don't expect Hannah to speak English fluently because I don't know that that's really within the realm of possibility since she can't hear it. But I do expect her to grow up and read and write English fluently because she'll have a base in the first language. If you start reading about deaf education and, you know, you read over and over that children don't reach anything beyond a 4th grade reading level, well, I don't have a whole lot to lose because, you know, at least she'll have fluency and she can express herself in one language and we can communicate in one language. And I can certainly learn, I mean, my feeling is I can learn ASL a whole lot easier than she can learn English.
When the parents at the Learning Center asked me what I was doing for Thomas, I had to admit I didn't know. Thomas and I and his mom live in a virtual present. I mean, he's learned tomorrow, but tomorrow is a vague future for him. I don't know the extent to which we can, my wife and I could leave the world that we have and intersect with another world that we know nothing about. I mean,
Rob, I think you don't have to. That is your world. You don't have to give up your world, but you also need to understand your son's world. You can keep your own world. Of course you can, just as the parents who can hear. Just like Mary Jane and Eve, you're not giving up your world, are you?
I have a 3-year-old. I can't give up my old world. This is his language time, too. I can't just stop communicating with him because we have a 19-month-old deaf baby. I mean, it's been hard and a long road, but now that we're here, I mean, I wouldn't want her. I mean, I always want her, but I wouldn't want her any other way. She wouldn't be Courtney. You know, and you just have to follow your child's lead.
One of the last people I met in my travels was Alina Engelman of Brooklyn, New York. Although Alina is profoundly deaf, she is near the top of her class in a mainstream hearing school. Alina was brought up on cued speech, a lip-reading method that uses hand shapes to help identify different sounds.
It's a system that was invented about 25 years ago. It's used throughout the United States and throughout the world, but it has not gained significant recognition, in part because of the war between the oralists and the manualists and the fact that it falls somewhat in between.
In talking with Alina and her brother Jan, I learned that Alina also signs.
And I people don't know much about Surdos, please. Yeah, And the only way for me to really have a relationship with other deaf people like me is to learn sign language. And it's also easier to communicate using sign language because when you speak, you have to make an effort to speak. And with sign language, you can just talk.
I want her to define herself as a deaf person, because if she defines herself as a hearing person, she will always feel like she's lacking something. And I want her to feel like she's a full person.
You need to not only expose yourself, but expose your child to the world of the hearing, the world of the deaf. And if you do that, your child will tell you where he or she wants to go.
Like in school, sometimes the kids were teasing me a few years ago over my deafness, you know. It would be a pain.
Yeah, I bet. What should I tell my son when he grows up about being able to handle that kind of pain?
What?
What should I tell my son, Tommy, about helping him to handle that pain?
Well, this thing, live with her. That's life.
When I returned home from Brooklyn, it was time to evaluate Thomas's progress in school.
What is this?
Hey, baby.
Ambulance.
Lori and I had to decide whether we wanted to keep him in the oral class or expose him to sign language.
Did you bite, Matthew? Let me see your arm. Did you bite, Matthew?
We were under a lot of pressure about Thomas, and sometimes it made life around the house pretty tense.
I'm the one that's caring for him, and you've gone off and you've intellectualized about what's best for Thomas, when in fact, I think that's a decision that needs to be jointly made based on, research, emotion, and practicality. And I don't think that you are giving the practical aspect of hearing parents raising a deaf child enough weight. Because there is a practical side, integrating a deaf child into a hearing family.
Mommy.
Hi, Batman. Time for school?
Why don't we make this one of our goals too for next year? Is
Yeah.
answering what and where questions.
And who?
Yeah.
And
All the
why?
right.
I mean, Thomas's speech and language had improved, but not enough for either of us. And the evaluations at school were depressing.
Does he know his last name?
Yes.
So if you say, what's your name, he'll say Thomas Tranchen?
No, he'll say Thomas.
Yeah, but if he really can't say his name. I mean, if you said, "What's your name, little boy?" He wouldn't say
he'd
it.
be helpless.
I'm going to give him an emerging on this because he does have some kind of an awareness that he has a first and last name, although he can't state it if you say, what is your name? What is your whole name? Okay.
Look at that.
Carla was always trying to give us hope, and she believed in Thomas.
Happy mouth.
He has a happy mouth.
We knew we had to do something, but we didn't know what.
Thank you. What is this?
Cow.
A cow.
We wanted Thomas's school to help us make a decision about whether or not to introduce Thomas to sign. But the school would not make a recommendation. They said the decision was ours.
It's not a knife, and it's not a spoon. It's a
Fork.
good job, Thomas. Hold on.
We're between a rock and a hard place. And the rock is that Thomas is deaf. And the hard place is that he does have some speech capability. So to deny his speech capability seems to me wrong. On the other hand, to deny the fact that his hearing ability is just this tiny little back alley compared to the superhighway that's his eyes is also wrong.
I don't think he'll have any difficulty accomplishing sign language, but I think his hardest task is to accomplish speech and oralism.
That's because he doesn't hear.
That's right.
We're focusing on the least of his capabilities. I just want him to talk to me like any almost 5-year-old kid. And I don't care whether it's sign language whether it's Swahili. And at the meeting, at the school, you said you didn't know who your son was.
That's right. I don't really know who Thomas is. That's a drawback. It's a serious drawback. But I am not
Listen
sure...
to what you're saying. It's a drawback?
It breaks my heart. However, if he doesn't have an oral facility as an adult, he won't have the choice. And I will have failed as his mother, I feel, by not giving him that choice. That's all I want. And yeah, it hurts. It hurts because, yes, my little boy says, I love you at night. Because I hug him and I kiss him and I tell him, I love you. And he whispers back, I love you. And I'm not sure he knows what it means. Except that he cares. It feels good to be kissed and hugged. That's important to me. And that he's happy and that he's safe. And that one day soon, you know, we'll hear jokes by Thomas, you know, or we'll have Tommy read us a book report. And it's a pity. It's a pity that he's deaf. I do believe that. And maybe that's where we're different. Deaf people don't think there's anything wrong with being deaf. I'm not deaf. I'm not deaf, I hear.
Kick too hard. You have to be more gentle.
Tommy, please don't think you only made us cry. You've made us so happy. Just look at how much. We want you to be happy, but it's hard to know how. The world outside isn't kind sometimes. The student victory during the Deaf President Now strike at Gallaudet 5 years ago means a lot more to me now.
The Gallaudet Revolution was a tremendously important moment in American deaf culture. This was a civil rights movement. It's not just a hearing world. It's not a white world. It's not a man's world. We all are in this world together, and there's enough millions and millions of deaf people, just, 2-3 million culturally deaf people in America alone, that I'm not about to exclude them from what kind of world it is. Is English dominant? You bet. Are hearing people more powerful? Absolutely. So your son has the problem that confronts countless children in America every day, and that is he's born into a minority.
In early spring, the deaf community here celebrated the anniversary of the Deaf President Now strike at Gallaudet.
We have a dream. We have a hope. We have desires. We still do.
We were there as new members of the deaf community.
Thanks to the Gallaudet Revolution, thanks to the civil rights movement in the United States, thanks to the linguistic discoveries about ASL of the 70s and 80s, this is a magnificent time to be deaf. It's a time full of promise, full of recognition, full of appreciation. I'm just very happy for Thomas that in the years ahead, our society is increasingly accepting who he is, recognizing his unique contribution to our society, and opening doors and careers to him.
And these, they're very sharp.
Shooters.
And what do we have here?
Lashes. Washi tape. Bow.
We're still working on Thomas's speech.
Shower.
Okay, hey, Thomas.
Let's play a game.
Your turn.
And recently, the daughter of a person we know at Thomas's school has been teaching us sign language. Her name is Rebecca, and she's deaf.
Oh, Thomas, lion. Okay. You're gonna show us a lion?
Dad, clap.
Okay. Good job. That's very good. That's a lion.
Horse.
Can you do horse?
No.
What's the sign for horse?
Yes, that's great.
You know, the way you're ending this documentary bothers me. I'm not really happy with it because you end with Rebecca. That means you're ending with sign, as if after all this searching, we finally decided signing's wonderful. Well, I'm not adverse to that, but I haven't completely satisfied my need to answer all those questions that still lay out there. And ultimately, the questions will be answered by Thomas. It's up to Thomas.
Thomas. Listen. Oh, you want to kiss me? Well, just a minute. I like your new glasses.
It's true. The story doesn't end here. We haven't made a decision yet on what we're doing at school next year with Thomas.
Powerful kiss.
We know that whatever we do, it won't be easy. But for now, we're just going to enjoy each other.
Well, we made up a sign in the car, and it was all Tommy's doing. He wasn't just a little happy, he was big happy. Can you show?
Big happy. Big happy. Big happy. Big happy.
We made a lot of mistakes, Thomas, and I'm sure we'll make some more. When you become a parent, I know you'll understand. We wanted to change you, but you changed us. You'll see this someday and wonder why we made such a big deal about it. Think of it as a gift, the way we think of you.
Funding